What if you could rewrite your country's constitution, like from scratch? It sounds like something out of a movie, but for one country, it actually became a real-life experiment. Today, we're diving into Iceland's wild, radical attempt at democracy.
No, I'm serious. Just think about it for a second. Not just voting for some politician who might change a law, but you, personally, having a say in the core rulebook of your nation. What would you put in there? What would you make sure was protected?
Well, for the people of Iceland, that question wasn't just theoretical. It became incredibly real. After a huge crisis, they decided their system wasn't just a little bit off, it was fundamentally broken. And they set out to fix it in a way nobody had ever seen before.
To really get why they took such a huge step, we've got to rewind to 2008. The world's financial system was shaking, but for Iceland, well, it completely fell off a cliff.
This wasn't just a bump in the road. It was a total meltdown. See, after years of deregulation, Iceland's three biggest banks, which were overloaded with debt, just imploded, all within a few days. This led to massive protests, people banging pots and pans in the streets, which is why they call it the Revolution of Pots and Pans. And it worked. The entire government resigned.
And just to give you a sense of how bad it was, the debt these banks had racked up was up to 10 times the country's entire economic output for a year. I mean, that's just staggering. People weren't just angry about the money, they were furious at a system that let it all happen.
And that anger started to focus on a much deeper problem. The crisis basically ripped the cover off the fact that their constitution, written way back in 1944, was completely out of date. It had nothing to say about the environment, or digital privacy, or modern finance. And here's the kicker. The people of Iceland had never actually voted to approve it in the first place.
So, with their economy in ruins and their faith in the system shattered, Iceland's new leaders did something different. They didn't just tweak the rules. They decided to throw out the old rulebook and let the people write a brand new one.
And this is what made it so incredible. I mean, think about how these things usually happen, right? A bunch of politicians and lawyers go into a room and come out with a document. Iceland completely flipped that script. They made it open, they made it participatory, and they handed the pen to ordinary citizens.
The process itself was amazing. First, they got almost 1,000 randomly selected citizens together to just brainstorm the core values. Then, a council of 25 regular people, and get this, they were chosen by lottery, not elected, took the lead. They set up a website where anyone, and I mean anyone, could submit ideas. And from all that input, they started drafting.
Okay, so what happens when you let everyday people write the nation's highest law? Well, you get a document that cares about some very different things than what you usually hear from politicians.
Looking at the thousands of suggestions that poured in, the public's priorities were super clear. The number one thing people wanted? Stronger environmental rights. Right after that came economic fairness, then gender equality, and then, stuff for our modern world, like digital rights and privacy. These were the things that really mattered to people.
And this one proposed article just says it all, doesn't it? It's not some complicated legal jargon. It's a clear, powerful statement of values. Let's protect our planet for the people who come after us. And they wanted that written into the country's most important document.
The final draft really was a document for the 21st century. It had clear protections for your data, stronger commitments to equality, and it even put limits on foreign ownership of natural resources. And maybe most importantly, it gave citizens more direct power through things like binding referendums.
So the people had spoken. The draft was ready, and the next step was to put it to a national vote. Everything seems to be going great, right? Well, this is where the story hits a major roadblock.
In October of 2012, Iceland held a referendum on the new constitution. And the result? It was a landslide. A full two-thirds of voters, 67%, said yes. They wanted this new crowdsourced constitution to become the law.
But even with that crystal clear mandate from the public, Iceland's parliament just refused to ratify it. And that was it. The process stalled. The new constitution, written for the people, by the people, was basically put on a shelf by the politicians.
But what happened in Iceland brings up this really deep, fundamental question that applies to pretty much every modern democracy.
Some people call it the paradox of dead pacts. It's this idea, why should we, the living, be bound by a set of rules written by people who are long gone? On what authority do generations from the past get to govern us today? And this is not just an Iceland thing at all. Take Italy. Its constitution from 1948 came out of this incredible fight against fascism, but it was also never directly approved by a popular vote. The people voted for the folks who wrote it, sure, but not on the final document itself. It creates what you could call a legitimacy deficit.
So, does that mean the whole experiment in Iceland was a failure? Not at all. Even though the Constitution is still stuck, the process itself left behind a really powerful legacy.
The way they did things in Iceland has actually inspired other countries, like Ireland and France, to try their own citizen-led assemblies. And even back home, ideas from that draft constitution have already shaped new laws. It kicked off this huge global conversation about what democracy can look like.
And in Iceland, this story is definitely not over. The people haven't forgotten. In fact, that desire for change is even stronger now. Polls show that more than 80% of Icelanders still want to finish what they started.
Which really brings us all the way back to that first big question. Should a country's founding document be treated like an ancient, untouchable text, or should it be a living document, something that every generation has the right to look at again and renew for its own time? What do you think?